welcome to the very first episode of a high schooler's deep dive into children's health. Before we even get to the science of today's topic, let me give you a quick reality check on why I'm even sitting here behind a microphone. I'm a 9th grader, and in my opinion, when most people think of children's health, they picture pediatricians, sterile clinics, or parents worrying over toddlers. But as a teenager living through it right now, I realize that our generation is facing a complete unique set of health challenges. From weird new allergy spikes and shifting sleep cycles to the mental health trends we see all over our feeds. I noticed a huge gap. All the medical advice out there is written by adults for adults about us. It's usually a lecture. And I wanted to change that. I started this podcast because I want to do the homework for us. I want to look at the actual science, medicine, and biology behind what is happening to our brains and bodies as we grow up in this fast-paced world, and break it down from a medical standpoint without the angry adult perspective. This show is about us taking ownership of our own well-being. And that brings us to our very first topic. When looking at the biggest shifts in kids' health today, I knew we had to start off with the environment we spend the most time in, the digital one. We're kicking off this series with a topic that is literally reshaping what it means to be a kid in 2026. Experts at major medical centers are calling this the so-called great rewiring of childhood. We've shifted from what used to be a play-based childhood to a literal phone-based childhood, where almost every single interaction we see is mediated by a screen. Now, I know what you're thinking. Great, another lecture telling me just to put my phone down? But hold on, let's look at the actual data. I've been digging through some fascinating research, and the numbers are staggering. A massive survey of US teens found that 63% of us feel like we use our phones too much. But here's the part that totally blew me away. We aren't just mindless zombies scrolling through video loops. About 47% of high schoolers, nearly half of us, are already actively using settings like focus mode or screentime apps to try and manage our own usage. Think about that. We know that there's a problem, and we're already trying to fix it ourselves. So today, we're going to walk through something called the Digital Wellness Diagnostic. This is a real tool developed by the Digital Wellness Lab for doctors to use during checkups. It's a 5-point checkup to see if your digital life is helping you thrive, or if it's starting to crowd out the things that actually make you, you. Alright, let's talk about language for a second. Why, you might be wondering? Because the words we use matter. If you turn on the news and listen to older generations talk about us, you'll constantly hear the word addiction. They love to say teens are addicted to their phones, or social media is a drug. But if you look at what's happening in the medical community right now, there is actually a massive shift away from that word. Modern doctors and researchers are starting to use a different phrase instead. Problematic media use, or PMU. Now, why do they care so much about changing the name? Is it just academic nitpicking? Not at all. It's actually a huge deal for us. See, when you use the word addiction, you are placing 100% of the blame on the person using the device. It implies that you are the weak one, that you just lack willpower, and that you are the problem. But problematic media use recognizes a truth that we all know deep down. These apps were literally designed to be so-called sticky. They're engineered by some of the smartest software designers on the planet to capture and hold our attention. It's definitely not a fair fight. The tech companies use a psychological trick called variable ratio reinforcement. That sounds incredibly fancy, but think of it exactly like a slot machine in a casino. If you went to a slot machine, pulled the lever, and won a prize every single time, it would actually get pretty boring pretty fast. If you pulled it 10 times and lost every single time, you'd get annoyed and walk away. But because you might win on the next pull or the next scroll, this next scroll might show you a hilarious meme or a viral video. Your brain stays completely hooked on the possibility. Neuroscientists call this reward prediction error. Your dopamine neurons don't just fire when you get a reward. They actually respond to the difference between what you expected to get and what you actually got. Now, let's map that out in real life. You're sitting in class and you secretly check your phone under your desk. And bam, you have a DM from someone you've been wanting to talk to. That's an unexpected reward. Your brain gets a massive surge of dopamine. It feels great. But the next 5 times you check, it's just a random app notification or an unprompted update. That delivers absolutely nothing, and your brain experiences a tiny drop in dopamine. And weirdly enough, that little drop doesn't make you want to put the phone away immediately. It actually motivates you to check again even sooner, just to chase that high back up. But hold on, here's the twist. And it's why we can't just treat phones like harmful substances. The internet actually has massive benefits. It's not all bad. Research shows that online spaces can offer a genuine sense of belonging, especially for teens who might feel isolated or misunderstood in their offline everyday lives. In fact, there was a study where students actually helped design their own school's phone policies. About 65% of them said that the rules were totally reasonable because they recognized the value of being both online and being present in the real world. We don't want to ban tech. We just want to control it. So, when we run our diagnostic today, we aren't diagnosing a disease or calling anyone an addict. We are just looking at how well you're navigating a digital landscape that was built from the ground up to literally distract you. Let's get into the actual toolkit. This is based on the Digital Media Use Screener, which looks at 5 key functional areas of your life. As I go through these, I don't want you to just listen passively. I want you to honestly run this diagnostic on your own daily routine. Let's see how many matches you get. This is the absolute number 1 area where screens cause a major glitch, and it starts way earlier than high school. The data shows that kids, even under the age of 2, are already averaging over an hour of screen time every single day. And by the time you get to 9th grade, that number skyrockets, and it's cutting directly into our sleep budget. Here's the actual biology of what's happening. Using your phone late at night under your covers doesn't just keep you awake because the content is interesting. The blue light from your screen and the constant mental engagement actually alters your brain chemistry. It tricks your brain into thinking it's still daytime, which prevents you from reaching stage 3 NREM sleep, also known as deep sleep. And why do we care about deep sleep so much? Because during this phase, your brain activates its own internal cleanup crew. Scientists call it the glymphatic system, but you can think of it like your brain's automatic dishwasher. It kicks into high gear at night to literally wash away metabolic waste products, like certain proteins, that build up in your brain during the day while you're studying and thinking. And if you cut your sleep short, Or if your sleep is shallow because of incoming alerts, that dishwasher never gets to essentially finish its cycle. You wake up feeling foggy, groggy, and exhausted, even if you were technically in bed for 8 hours. How are things going with the people you actually live with? Are screens causing what researchers call phubbing? That's a mashup of the words phone and snubbing. This is domain number 2. Picture this. You're sitting at the dining table, or you're in the living room with your family. Is everyone actually talking and interacting, or is everyone just staring at a different sized screen in total silence? When doctors look at this domain, they're checking to see if digital media is causing constant arguments at home, or if you've completely stopped being mentally present for shared meals and conversations. If every conversation with your parents ends in a fight about your screen time, that's a major flag in the diagnostic. Domain number 3, social functioning. This one is a massive double-edged sword. On one hand, social media is how we stay connected, share inside jokes, and plan our weekends with our best friends. But on the flip side, it introduces us to intense FOMO, the fear of missing out, and what psychologists call online boundary crossing behavior. Here's the check for this domain. Do your digital friendships actually make you feel supported and connected? Or do they leave you feeling anxious, left out, and insecure? If you've ever felt completely lonely in a crowd while scrolling through people's stories, that is a classic sign of problematic media use. Domain number 4, academics. We've all been there, don't lie. You sit down to study for a massive biology test, you open your textbook, and your phone lights up with a notification or a text. You answer it, look back at your book, and then 2 minutes later, it happens again. Listen to how much our attention spans have degraded over the years. Back in 2004, the average time a person could stay focused on a single screen before switching tasks was about 2.5 minutes. By 2020, that number dropped all the way down to 47 seconds. We can barely hit a minute without needing a new stimulus. So here is the check. Can you actually sit down and do 20 minutes of deep, uninterrupted schoolwork without touching your phone or switching tabs to a video? If the answer is no, your digital hygiene is taking a serious toll on your grades and your ability to learn. Domain number 5, interests and activities. This last one is what experts call crowding out, and honestly, it's one of the toughest parts of tech overuse. Think to back when you were a bit younger, or even just maybe a year ago. Did you love playing an instrument? Were you super into sketching, playing pickup basketball, reading, or building things? Now look at your current routine. Do you still actually do those things, or do you spend all of your free time watching other people do them on YouTube or TikTok? When scrolling takes the place of your actual hobbies, your real-world interests are being crowded out by passive consumption. Okay, so we just ran the diagnostic. Maybe you realized your sleep is kind of a mess, or maybe your old hobbies are totally being crowded out by endless scrolling. And don't panic. Don't even worry. This isn't the part where I tell you to delete all your accounts or throw your phone into a river. That's just not realistic for a high schooler in 2026. Instead, behavioral researchers have given us 2 practical, real-world frameworks to take back our control: the 5 M's and the 5 C's. Let's start with the 5 M's of digital wellness. This is your personal blueprint for taking back the wheel. The first M, model. This means leading by example. Believe it or not, studies show that when parents model healthy tech habits, it is the absolute number 1 factor in improving a teen's digital wellness. So if you show your parents you can put your phone away at dinner, you might actually train them to do the same. Number 2, mentor. If you have younger siblings, cousins, or younger kids in the neighborhood, help them navigate the internet safely instead of just telling them to get off their screens. Show them the cool, productive sides of the web. And number 3, monitor. This isn't about letting adults spy on you. This is about you checking your own stats. Open up your screen time setting once a week. Look at the numbers like a scientist. Which apps are your biggest time sinks, and are they actually making you happy? And number 4, mastery. Learn how the machine works. When you understand that an algorithm is actively using variable rewards and dopamine tricks to manipulate you, you can master the app rather than letting the app master you. It becomes a game you can actually win. And lastly, the last M, meaning. Prioritize digital activities that actually add real value to your life. There is a huge difference between spending an hour learning how to edit videos or code versus spending an hour mindlessly watching people loop through the same short audio clip. Now, the second framework is the 5 C's. This is what families can use together to build a realistic media plan that doesn't feel like a penalty. The first C is child. Every single person is different. Some people can play video games for 2 hours and walk away perfectly fine. For others, it triggers a total mood shift. You should know your limits. The second C, content. What are you actually consuming? Is it high quality, educational, or creative? Or is it pure, unadulterated brain rot? The third C, calm. Is your media use helping you genuinely unwind after a stressful day of school? Or is it making you hyperactive, competitive, and anxious? The fourth C, crowding out. Is your tech use actively stealing time away from sleep, physical exercise, or face-to-face friendships? And lastly, the fifth C, communication. Are you able to talk openly with your family about the weird, cool, or stressful things you see online without worrying that they're just going to confiscate your device? Now, I want to dive into the brain rot biology. Let's lean into the phrase that I just used, because I know you hear it every single day on your feeds. Brain rot. We use it as a joke, right? We say it when we've been scrolling for 3 hours or watching completely absurd, nonsensical videos. It's a total slang term. But guess what? Neuroscientists and medical researchers are actually looking at what brain rot means from a strictly biological perspective. And the findings are actually kind of wild. When we talk about brain rot scientifically, we are talking about a noticeable decline in cognitive functions like short-term memory, focus, and attention span caused by the non-stop consumption of what is called low-effort, high-stimulation content. Think about how a short-form video feed works. It is a rapid-fire burst of bright colors, sudden noises, and quick cuts every 5 to 15 seconds. When you consume hours of this every week, you are literally training your brain's neural pathways to expect instant, effortless rewards. This causes a state called cognitive overload. Your brain is being flooded with way more information, sensory output, and emotional triggers than it ever evolved to process at one time. And that leads directly to something called digital amnesia. Because we have search engines and AI assistants sitting right in our pockets, ready to answer anything in a split second, our brains stop putting in the effort to move information from our short-term working memory into our long-term memory storage. We are outsourcing our memory to our devices. But here is the best part of the whole episode, and the main thing I want you to remember. Your brain is incredibly plastic. Neuroplasticity means your brain isn't set in stone. It can change, adapt, and heal based on your habits. You can literally retrain your attention span just like a muscle at the gym. In fact, research shows that just 3 weeks of limiting your social media use to 30 minutes a day can cause massive and measurable drops in feelings of anxiety, loneliness, and depression. Your brain wants to reset. You just have to give it the breathing room to do it. Wow, we covered a ton of ground today for our very first deep dive. If your brain is feeling a little full right now, don't worry. Let's wrap this up into 3 neat, simple takeaways that you can easily carry with you into the rest of your week. First, language matters. Remember, you aren't an addict with zero willpower. You are navigating problematic media use. The digital world was literally engineered to steal your attention. But once you understand how those dopamine traps work, the power shifts back to you. Second, run your own diagnostic. Take a quick look at your life this week. Check your sleep, your family time, your friendships, your academics, and your interests. If one of those areas is glitching or being crowded out, it's not a failure. It's just a sign that it's time to readjust your digital hygiene. And finally, remember to be the pilot. Nearly half of us are already trying to manage our own tech. You don't have to wait for an adult to tell you to put the phone down. Use the 5 M's I discussed earlier to take back control of your own attention and decide for yourself what matters most: your sleep, your hobbies, your goals, and finally, your future. At the end of the day, digital wellness isn't about giving up the things you love online. It's just about making sure that you're the one that's driving the car, rather than letting an algorithm steer you into a ditch. If you want to read the actual research papers behind today's episode, check out the Digital Media Use Screener, or download my free digital wellness check on my website. You can find the link right down in the show notes. Next time on the show, we are pivoting from screens to science labs for the allergy revolution. We're going to look at how researchers are using mRNA technology, the exact same technology from modern vaccines, to actually retrain the immune system so it tolerates things like peanuts and eggs. It is absolutely mind-blowing science, and you won't want to miss it. Thank you so much for listening to the very first episode. This was a high schooler's deep dive into children's health. Stay curious, look up from your screens every once in a while, and stay well. See ya!